Hi, and welcome back to another AnyRPG Development Livestream. In these videos, I livestream the development of the AnyRPG Engine, a free and open source role-playing game engine designed in Unity and written in C#. If you don't already have a copy of AnyRPG, you can pick one up from anyrpg.org/downloads in both Unity package and source code format. You can also find free copies of the games that you see me working on for download at the same page. In this episode, we will be adding a sort of kind of new feature to the game, mid-level cutscenes. And we already have cutscenes in the game, but currently you can either have an entire level as a cutscene or a cutscene at the start, but you can't trigger a cutscene really in the middle of a level while staying inside of that level. So we're going to make some changes to the engine so that that can happen. And one of the things I want to do is we've got a switch right now in our game that will move a platform up and down. And we need to make it basically so that switch can move two platforms up and down. And then we'll put a switch in a different room and have a cutscene that goes and shows us the switch or the platforms moving in the other room. So to do that, the first thing that we have to do is make it so that a ControlSwitch, which is one of the classes we recently added, this ControlSwitch class, we need to make it capable of controlling more than one thing. So to do that, we'll go into the ControlSwitch class, and in this case, we have like two of them for some reason. Right, because there's a control switch in AnyRPG and there's a control switch in Viking Village here. So we want the control switch in AnyRPG. Okay, we're going to open that up in our editor, and you can see here we have control object. What we're going to do instead is make a list of control objects. So this is a list of interactable option, and we're going to call it control objects, and it's going to be a new list of interactable option. Save that, and next what we want to do is, instead of control object dot interact, we want to do a loop. So for each for each interactable option, in control objects, and we want to do interactable option dot interact. Alright, so what this will do is when we hit the control switch now, instead of just interacting with a single object, it will interact with all the objects on the list, and that will give us the ability to move two platforms at the same time. So let's go load up the level now. Just let this compile here for a second, and we'll go to the Temple of Ancient Energy. And what we want to do here, let's hit F to focus on the ground here. Alright, so what we want to do is we want basically this platform right here to start down and this bridge here to start up. But you won't be able to get to the bridge because this one will be down. So you'll have to like click a switch in the other room, which will raise this one to let you get through but lower this one. And then when you run over here, it'll raise that one but lower that one back down. So first thing we need to do is make this standard block right here into a movable object. And let's see here, we have somewhere in here object, let's just take this one right here. We're going to unpack this prefab. And then try to find the object down here. There. Somewhere here we've got our interactable. Bridge container. There we go. Alright, you know what? Let's pull this bridge container out. There we go. And I'm going to make a new holder here so that we can hold that. So let's create an empty, reset the transform on it, and just call it interactables, and then we'll move the bridge container in there. Alright, so then what we want to do is we want to make a platform container, basically just like the bridge container, out of wherever this block is right here. So what I'll do is I will duplicate the bridge container. We will remove the ancient temple bridge from it. We'll call this bridge container 2, and we'll take this block right here. We will copy the transform values on it. Then we'll go down to bridge container 2 and we will paste those component values. So now okay, just a second, that didn't work. That's because those values were relative, that's why. Okay, so what we want to do is we would just want to pull this block 6x6 out right here. And now we have the proper world values, so now we can copy the component, and then we can go back to bridge container 2. We can activate it and we can paste the component values. Alright, good. Now it's in the right spot. So then what we want to do next is make a prefab profile. This is ancient temple bridge, so I'm going to make an ancient temple bridge short prefab profile that basically points to this block right here. So we'll look for ancient temple bridge. I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate it, and I'm going to call this ancient temple bridge short. At the end here, call it ancient temple bridge short, and I have this ancient temple bridge prefab over here. So I want to take this block 6x5x6, make an original prefab of it over here, and rename it rename it to ancient temple bridge short. I'll go over to the ancient temple bridge, and if we open up the prefab, it's basically just a holder for 2 platforms. We can just revert that added component because it doesn't need to be there, and we can revert that added component because it doesn't need to be there. So for the ancient temple bridge short, I'm just going to actually call that the ancient temple bridge short block. I'm going to Control D to duplicate the Ancient Temple Bridge. I'm going to call this one the Ancient Temple Bridge short. Open up the prefab, delete the two platforms and pull the block in here, and then reset its transform. Okay, so now I can go to my Ancient Temple Bridge short prefab and pull in the Ancient Temple Bridge short. Alright, so this thing, let's see, needs to start down. So let's just pull that block. Actually, what we want to do is move this block over into bridge container 2 here. Now the block is relative to bridge container 2, so now we can figure out its relative starting position. We want this thing to be down and invisible by default. So I'm gonna, actually, that's all we need to do is y value of negative 8.49. So if we go to its prefab profile, we can set that as its normal position, and then we just set 0 as its default position, which is where it was up. And the audio for both slides is wooden crate sliding, so that's fine. And then the first bridge we're actually going to have up by default, so I'm going to cut that negative 8 out of there for the position and move that to the sheathed position, which means that that bridge will start up. Alright, so now that we have those two bridges, what we need to do is make an interactable out of one of these lit up things over here in the front room. So we'll click that and it'll make the bridges move in the other room, at which point we'll activate the cutscene. So let's take a look at this thing right here. Basically it's got an interactable and a control switch, and we need to set two control objects there. And then I will copy that component. We'll go over here to this one and we will add an interactable, and we will also paste component as new to put in the control switch. And then we want to pull in the correct objects for it. So those objects are bridge container and bridge container 2. So we'll pull in bridge container and pull in bridge container 2. Over here, same thing. We're going to pull in bridge container and bridge container 2. Good. Now I can just remove control object because we don't need that anymore. Let's go test that out. We should be able to go into the dungeon right now, and we should be able to hit the control switch and have it move both of those things, so we have more of a puzzle-like dungeon. And first I'm just going to get rid of disable the AI units here so that we can run around and play with this puzzle without having to kill stuff for now. Alright, so to do this we're going to go back to the load game manager. And I think, okay, so this should say if control objects equals null, or control objects dot count equals 0. So we'll let that compile, and let's go see if our button's working now. let's see, I should have somebody here. There we go, perfect. So I got a tester over here in the Temple of Ancient Energy. Alright, so it looks like we have the wrong bridge over here for some reason, and that bridge is not in the upwards position like it's supposed to be. Interestingly, I want to just click this switch and see what happens here. Its spawn reference of interactable has not been assigned. Okay. So let's go see what those issues are all about. We'll go back to the Temple of Ancient Energy. And let's take a look at bridge container 2 here. Okay, so this is actually supposed to say Ancient Temple Bridge short, not Ancient Temple Bridge. And this block should actually not be active. But it's really interesting that this spawn reference of interactable had not been assigned. Let's see where that was happening right here. Animated object. Okay. Let's try loading the game again. I'm just curious to see if that happens now with the correct prefab profile. Okay, so that's better because this one's starting in the down position, but this one over there is not in the correct position, it looks like. So let's just go take a look. Basically, it didn't spawn, it appears, for some reason. So let's see, if we go to the Temple of Ancient Energy here and go to Interactables and hit F to focus on the bridge container, we see that it did not spawn. Which is kind of weird because Ancient Temple Bridge is a real prefab profile. So let's see. Why would our ancient temple bridge not spawn? Let's go back into the Temple of Ancient Energy, and there's like almost no difference between those things. I think I need to stick some debug messages on this thing and try to figure out why it didn't spawn its object. So let's see. Where are we spawning the prefab profile? Right here. And let's just, I don't know, throw a bunch of debugs or turn all those debugs on. And then we'll go into our game manager here, and load it up and just see what kind of messages that we get. So for some reason, that's really odd. Our bridge container 1 never got its start method called. So let's see, I'm wondering if this is an ordering issue where somehow this awake is getting called too late. It actually kind of looks like that might be the case. And I'm going to go ahead and say that create event subscriptions should probably be run in the awake method rather than the start method. By the time that the start method has run, there's a potential that the player basically has already spawned and it wouldn't be able to react to that event. So let's load up the game and try that again. And somehow, once again, bridge container 1 didn't manage to handle the player unit spawn. So let's see here. We subscribe to the player unit spawn. If the player unit's already spawned, then we call handle player unit spawn manually. Handle player unit spawn does a handle prerequisite updates. I don't really see how this thing is not receiving let's just see. Maybe more debugs will help. I still don't get it. Both of these guys added a spawn listener. So why did bridge container 1 not receive the message? Let's just check cleanup event subscriptions to make sure that that's not like accidentally running. And this is gameObject.my, no, gameObject.name plus spawnable dot cleanup event subscriptions. And then I want to go back and just look at the level one more time. Okay, so we have bridge container 2, and we have ancient temple bridge short. I don't see any problem with those. Okay, let's load the game again. Okay, so so the bridge containers woke up, added spawn listeners. player spawned. Bridge container 2 and regular bridge container started. Then the UMA unit started. And this thing handled the player unit spawn. But I don't see why. It really doesn't make sense that both of these things, both of these bridges can subscribe to that event. Yet neither of them can actually, or only one of them is receiving the message. It just doesn't seem possible. Okay, so let's see. I actually want to see this awake method being called. And the start method being called. Okay, so let's, I don't know, let's try loading the game again. Okay, so the interactable awake method is called. This should actually say spawnable.awake. We create our event subscriptions, add our spawn listener. Then the first bridge container wakes up, creates its event subscriptions, adds its spawn listener. These guys all get their start methods run. The UMA unit get its start method run. And then it tells the system event manager to notify on player unit spawn. At which point bridge container 2 gets notified. But for some reason bridge container doesn't. This is like the oddest thing. I almost feel like this is a Unity bug or something, because at no point are we ever like removing those subscriptions. And I don't see anything in the code here that should be able to cause that to happen. This should say spawnable dot setup scriptable objects. So should that. clear the error log, load this guy. Let's see. Creates its event subscriptions. This one creates its event subscriptions. This is actually spawnable. This is spawnable, this is spawnable, that's spawnable. Basically, these should all be spawnable. Alright, so I'm not really sure what's happening here. I think I'm going to take this issue offline because this, like, to me it seems like some sort of Unity bug. There shouldn't be anything that can cause those bridge containers to just lose their subscriptions to the system event manager's player spawn event. So I will investigate that and come back with another stream when I figure that out.